this, show screen. All right. Welcome to another class. And just to all right. Just to bring into perspective, I think we are currently on today is Tuesday, 14th of March. And as you can see, we have this going on. And tomorrow is our deadline for both assignments and belt exams. Now, in extreme cases, if whatever happens, you are still not able, I don't want you guys to put so much pressure on yourself, because if you put too much pressure on yourself, it affects your thinking process, and then it affects your performance. So try as much as possible not to think too much about your deadline and be like, oh, I have 24 hours to go, I have 5 hours to go. Carry on with what you're doing. If you need to take breaks, even if you have less time to go, take that break, get back in, and then keep pushing on. Now, you could see there's belt exam here. I mean, we would be grading. I would be grading these belt exams. Probably this is the deadline. And whenever I receive them, I grade it by the end of the day. And then I give back your results. So I just hope that you all could finish on Wednesday. But then in worst case scenario, at least your assignment should have been done by Wednesday. For the belt exam, I might give extension for just 1 day, but then that is to people that have reasonable cause as to why they need the extension. So then for that one, you might have to reach out to me, explain to me why you need that extension, because there are people who have about 6 assignments to go, 5 assignments to go. So for them, they have that much pressure, so it's understandable. But however, if you are done with your assignments and you have been doing the belt, you just reach out to me and we'll find the solution. As I said, the plan is not to stress you all out. The plan is to make sure you guys are able to go through this properly and easily, right? And even besides that, it's supposed to be a 1-week belt exam. Most of you did not start on the day I gave out the exam. You started on the next day. So if it's supposed to be 7 days, in the best case scenario, that should be on Thursday. But however, we need to have your assignment grade, your assignment percentages done before Thursday, because Thursday we will have a meeting with the admin group, the program status and all of that. And that is where we'll analyze those that did not meet the requirements for assignments or attendance, and then they might need to retake the whole professional track. And I hope, hopefully, most of you would not be able to go experience, most of you would not get into that situation. Now, I think the good thing is most of you have, I think like 99% of you have about 11 assignments or more done out of 16 assignments. So that means for a lot of you, it's either 5 assignments you have to do or maybe 4. So for that, it's possible and you can do it. So I just hope that once you get that done, your assignment percentages will go up. And also your attendance on the platform may not be, I think we are still updating that. Maybe Jasmine will confirm. So whatever you are seeing, it may not be your current attendance. So if you are seeing something below, because your attendance has to be 80%, and then your assignment has to be 90%. So if you are seeing that your attendance is less than 80 and it's messed up, and you know you've not been absent for more than 3 days, you don't need to worry. Just reach out to me, tell me, hey, Derek, I've seen that this status is not this way. I'll compare with the one we have, which is our internal records. And then I'll verify with you that this is what you have. That is if your attendance on the platform is not up to date, right? And that is where you know that you've been in class you've not missed more than 3 days. But if you've missed more than 3 days, just let me know. And then I would actually fix that up for you. Yeah, in a case where maybe you asked or you did something and I forgot to update that, let me know. But the platform may not be having the accurate or the right information. So I mean, not the right information, but then the most updated information. So yeah. And then besides that, remember the how many shells assignment, you need to produce at least 1 shell. If you have 1 shell you submit, is actually acceptable. Don't go beyond yourself trying to get 15 shells, because you need time for the belt exam. So do well to do that. And then besides this, we have the belt exam rubric. And I think we might need to just go over that quickly. In as much as, and I know I said you may have to, you may not need metasploits in this belt exam, but then I think I might have gone beyond. I might have sort of over exaggerated, or sort of I might have exaggerated on that statement. So you may need metasploits, but then you may not need a metasploit exploit. You know, the exploits are the ones that perform the attack, but then there are other things in metasploit that are needed for other things, right? For example, it's even stated here that the student will gain a shell via MSF Venom with user level permissions. This is literally giving out information on, it's giving out information on that, okay, you may need something at some point, and so that's the idea. Now with this, if you are talking about this, that means clearly you may need something in Metasploit to sort of receive it, and I'm not being too specific, but you know what I mean. If you've been in this class for all this while, you know what I mean. So then that is where Metasploit might come in, because you may need something in Metasploit to be able to catch whatever this is bringing back, MSF Venom is bringing back. Now, there is a documentation here, and I think one person did a report, which was very impressive, but that is not the norm, and that is not what I expect. So hopefully that, I mean, I don't think I had a chance to explain these in the past, right? So the high-level summary, this could be at the top of your document, and then maybe your methodologies of what you did, right? So maybe at some point you perform certain tasks, you perform password cracking, you performed host discovery, all of that will come in here. And then information gathering, you need to tell us what you found, right? So telling us, okay, this is the scope of our engagement. I scanned, I found these devices. After that, I also found out that these ports were available on these services, blah, blah, blah. All of that will be contained here. And it's not just the beginning. Whilst you are on the system, if you are finding extra information, you need to add it to your information gathering. Now, enumeration is where you go deeper into your info gathering, maybe finding out the version of the ports available, finding out specific things that you wouldn't have found on other places. All of that will be an enumeration. And then penetration is where you performed the task, right? If there was a password cracking you did, all of that will be here. If there was analyzing of specific tools and files, you have to put them here. And house cleaning, maybe when you're done, you may need to clean up some files because you don't want the administrators to find out that you've done something. So if you send something over and you have that right to go into the machine, you may have to find that file that you sent over and then delete it. Now that is where house cleaning comes, and you need to tell us if you did something like that. Now, in as much as these are here, the penetration stage could actually be a lot of things, right? It could, so many things could be going on there. And house cleaning could be at the end of it. But some people would prefer to just do all of this at the beginning, which is okay. But then once you are done and you are going through the red belt and black belt task, we need you to explain to us what you are doing, right? We need to explain to us what you are doing. Like if you did an Nmap scan, show us the screenshot of you doing the Nmap scan. Tell us that this was an Nmap scan and this is what you discovered. Like, give us a step-by-step of what you're doing. Don't splash us with screenshots. So go through that. Tell us what you're doing. I found this port open. I sent this command. I got this username. You've been doing this all this while in most of the assignment, but we need you to sort of explain the screenshots. If you put a screenshot here, explain what that screenshot is showing us. We need that. It's very important. If you are not explaining, then I have to make a judgment call on whether you deserve whatever belt you had or not. Then when it comes to the type of belt, you need to provide specific information. And there's a reason why I changed this from finding red belt flag and black belt flag, because the red belt on the system does not have a flag. It's basically a task. You would find a file on the system that will tell you that if you want to find a red belt, this is what you need to do. If you want to find a black belt, this is what you need to do. So that is why I've changed this to finding the task instead of a flag, because some of you may be looking for a flag that may not be there. And there are others, some of you that went on to find the black belt flag, but then you still can't find the red belt flag because the file that will tell you what to do, you've not found it. And you've not found it because you used a different route to find it, which we are not going to fault any of you for that because it's a pen test and there are several ways to do things. But if you used a different way to find the black belt flag and you are not finding the red belt flag, maybe you should change how you got into the machine and use the other approach that maybe you were stuck with to find the red belt task. And you could see that I've highlighted end over here, meaning that you need to do both in order to qualify for a black belt. Now, when it comes to getting a red belt, in case you complete only the red belt task, just that one, you get a red belt. In case you complete just the black belt task without the red belt task, you still get a red belt. So there's or then there's end, where I've specifically stated. So make sure that you are, if you do any of them, you only qualify for red belt. So those of you that were able to find the black belts by going through the other side and you found it, fantastic job. But then as long as you are not getting the other one in addition, you qualify. Even if you get all the other flags, right? Even if you get all the other flags, you would not qualify for a black, you only qualify for a red. Make sure you complete both tasks. And as you can see, whoever is grading, which is myself, should be able to follow your report and replicate it step by step. And you should also, I think for the commands, you don't need to copy and paste. You could just, if your screenshot has the commands, that is also fine. You don't need to, you don't need to type in your commands whilst you are typing your reports or explaining your screenshots. And then also for, I think I missed Spencer's question, but Spencer, have I answered your question? Because I think I did that earlier when I explained house cleaning. Did I answer your question? Oh, so I was saying, so for house cleaning, all you're doing is if you get into someone's house and maybe your footprints are in the house, you may have to clean the floor so that they don't know that an intruder entered. So the same way you are cleaning the machine you attacked. Let's say you sent a file over to the other side. You may want to go onto that server in case you have access to delete those files that you sent over at some point of your attack. So that's where house cleaning comes in, making sure that no one is able to trace your steps. So deleting things you installed on the machine, things you got on the machine, once you're done, make sure you delete them. And that's it. Is that okay? No. So house cleaning is not a make or break situation. The make or break situation is what we've listed here. However, these things we've stated here is also a requirement because this is a report you are creating and we want to see that, right? So if you don't put any of these things here, and then, so for the house cleaning, I think it may look like you may have to delete everything that has been there. No, not everything. Even if you're able to delete just one file out of maybe if 10 files were sent over and you're able to delete just one file, it qualifies as house cleaning. You don't have to make sure everything is done, right? Even if you are not able to delete anything and you're able to explain to us what you would have done for the house cleaning step, it would still be accepted. So it's not a make or break situation, but then we encourage you all to write it in this way so that at any point in time you find yourself on the job and you are supposed to make a report of something, you know what and what is expected. If you did everything by the house cleaning part, if you did everything you've already submitted without the house cleaning part, it's fine. And as I've said, if you have not submitted your belt exam to me, you could literally just write a text on what you would have done for the house cleaning part, not necessarily show me screenshots. For all the reports I've seen, no one has shown me a screenshot of their house cleaning. All they did was to just say that this is what I would have done for house cleaning. I would have deleted this and this and this and that. So it's not something, if you've not submitted your report, you could just include that section and then just put that in there. What would you have deleted? Put that there. If you feel like no files were sent over, say that no files were sent over, so due to that, you would not need house cleaning on this engagement. Absolutely fine. Is that okay, Spencer? All right, you're welcome. Now, at this point, we think I've explained what needs to be here. So we are going to open the floor up for questions. And also, maybe I may also bring up what I've seen so far. I think one of them has to come before the other. So what I've seen so far on the belt, and maybe addressing some of what I've experienced with you all, I could also do that. And then maybe after that, questions will come in. All right. So I'm going to start from the top, and bear with me. That's good. Can you see the whiteboard?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Now, most of you are doing this, and I'm going to go through some set of things on the board, so pay attention and look at them carefully, right? And I believe that for those of you that are stuck, as I said, the goal is not to make you stuck. The goal is to make sure that we have equipped you the right way, right? So if you started this engagement, I know some of you have started, some of you still have issues with your assignments, so you are trying to complete before you start the belt exam. So if at any point I'm doing this, a belt exam, or maybe I'm doing a pen test, I'm going to go over this process again, right? First thing I would do, for those of you that do not know how to start, first thing I would do is to make sure both devices are on the same network, right? Both machines are on the same network. Now, next thing I will do is that I'm going to scan, because by that time I know my IP address, so I'm going to scan the victim's machine just for all the ports available. Now, if you scan the victim's machine, there's one thing that is clear, which is you find several ports available. And I'm going to say this here. For this belt exam, you may find several ports open, and you may not, I think only about 4 of them are ports of interest. Any other port beyond those 4 will not be needed. So if you are seeing 15 ports open, and I'm saying only 4 ports are needed, and even based on what you'll be finding on the machine, you'll be told that, why don't you try this next? Why don't you try this next? You'll notice we are telling you about specific ports to attack, and these will fall in that 4 ports I'm talking about. So I'm trying to limit, because I saw a report which I was very impressed by a student here, and that student actually went, like, it was so impressive, but it's not, but it was good, because in a real life pen test, you don't know which port will yield information. And that person went into every single port, probably looked for vulnerabilities for all those ports to see if they will work, found out the exploits, tried to exploit them. Now, that is how you would operate in a real world pen test. But in this case, due to time, and most of you have 24 hours to go, I'm trying to sort of limit your scope so that you don't go out of scope, right? So now, based on that, in as much as there are so many ports, focus probably on those 4, and you would see it. I didn't mention it in the other class, like the previous one. So scan the target machine for open ports. And once you scan the target machine, and I'm not going to explain how to do these things because we've gone through these over the course of the program. You've done assignments that have required these steps so many times. So if you feel like there is a thing you want to do and you can't remember it, you don't remember the assignment that got you there, that's a bit, that would be a bit surprising. But in case you are looking for, let's say you want to scan the port and you don't know which assignment could lead you there, you could just reach out to me. Hey, Derek, I'm trying to scan the port. I've forgotten which assignment or which class you talked about that. And I'll tell you which particular one just to aid you because you have 24 hours to go. So I'm going to be like, oh, go to week 2, day 1. It was talked about, or check this assignment that you did and we'll talk about that just to make sure that you don't spend too much time with this. Now, after you scan the target machine for ports and you found the ports that are available, now the next step is, if in case a particular port is open, now there's a question to all of you. Where do most servers store their websites? It is on which port? Which ports do most servers have their websites running on? You can put it in the chat. 80 and 443. Perfect. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Erica. So in this case, 80 is the one with its HTTP. 443 is HTTPS, and then 8080 is sometimes an alternative in case whoever did it does not want to set up those ports. Now, when you get your report, when you get the scan report, you need to check if there is any of these things that have been listed by Rachel and Erica. Check if port 80 is open. If 443 is open, if 8080 is open. Now, if 80 is open, right? If 80 is open, then you might need to visit the website because that is where we mostly store. That's where the web service exists. So you might just need to go to the website, right? So if 80 is open, go to the URL, like visit the URL through your browser, your Kali browser. To see if there's something. Now, when you get there, you need to analyze what you're seeing. Now, based on what you're seeing, you may need to do something, right? Maybe you got there, you saw a file, you saw something, and based on the class we did last week, I mentioned so many times, I think most of you have figured it out by now, that if you get to a site and you see a particular file, there is a tool you could use to get information from those files. And what was the name of the file? Does anyone remember? If you get to a site where you just give the file to the tool, and the tool will find a way to get it exactly. So there is a tool like information. So for that, we have stack cracker. And then there was stack hide. So stack hide was used to hide it, but it can also be used to crack it. And then there was, the last one was stack seek. Thank you, Arturo. And thank you, Susan. So now we have 3 tools that could help you get information. And I've mentioned these tools only deal with a particular file type. So if you get to the website through your Kali browser and you see these, you see a particular file, first thing you will do is, okay, I've seen a file, then I might need to, how do I say this? You might have to decide if there's a file here, let me download that on my Kali and then give it to any of these tools. And I would recommend StackCracker because it's a bit straightforward. You give it the file and it's going to do it. Now, I've explained how to use StackCracker in Thursday's video. So based on what you find in step 3, then you carry on. Now, StackCracker, if there is a file, StackCracker would surely tell you there is a secret and it would crack it for you and you get the result. Now, in step 4, maybe after cracking, in case there was a file, in case there was anything, it was the racer file type. I'm not getting what you're saying, Rachel, if you could explain further. But I think it was, yes, I get you. So that was the image I used in class, and it was a racer, blah, blah, blah. So yes, we are right on track. So now, assuming you found whatever it is, and yes, you guys are with me, perfect. So assuming you found whatever it is, your next step would be, how do I, if this tool does its job, we are going to get a result, and that result would be a riddle, right? And I'm going to be straightforward with you. You're going to find a file, and that file, whatever is in the file, contains a riddle. Now, this is what I would have done. Now, if I see a file like a riddle, first thing I'm going to do, and I mentioned on Thursday, that you need to analyze the file, read that file slowly. I talked to people over the weekend and they were like, I'm stuck on, I'm like, take your time, watch my videos again. I explained how you could find information from these. If you see something that is a bit confusing, because I told those that came for office hour earlier that I was stuck on the file for like a whole day. And I had to literally go and look at the walkthrough to actually figure out how to do the thing. So you guys are not alone if you're experiencing something like that. But then if you see a file which has information, because in this belt exam, at any point in time, we make sure to tell you if you found you are in a rabbit hole or you're actually on the right path. You would enter certain places, you would find a rabbit hole, and then you'll be told that, hey, this is a rabbit hole. And even if it's a rabbit hole, we tell you that if you found yourself here, consider checking this. Maybe you'll find something. So even with that, we direct you to the right path. Now, when you get there, you could find things that are interesting. And then maybe you could find a file that I said there's a file in there that contains a riddle. And it says it's like a conversation, but then certain parts of that file have vital information. And I said earlier that one key I would give you is that if people are texting and they want to shout, right? If let's say someone texts in a particular way and we say that, okay, this person is shouting. How do we detect that someone is shouting through text? And what did you all say last week, if you remember? If two people are texting, exactly, all caps. So then you might, if you found a riddle file or with a riddle text file, make sure you go through it and check, are there any uppercase letters in there? Are these things all caps? And read it slowly. And whenever you get to the part where some shouts are going on, try and read it slowly and read out the shouting part in isolation, right? So be like, take your time, and you get to the shouting part, take your time, read it like syllables, right? Don't read it as one word, read them in syllables, and that gives you an idea. Now, there are several times that people even found information and it looked like, okay, this could be a password, but then it's a bit straightforward. Like, you should know when certain passwords are encoded or encrypted, where it's not really something you could say offhand. So at that point, you may need to figure out how to decode or decrypt such passwords. And we are not going to tell you how to decode something if you guys have no experience decoding before. In some of the assignments, we asked you all to decode a particular text. During malware analysis assignment, we asked you all to decode the text, if you remember, with CyberChef. With another assignment, you guys had to also decode again. Like, you've had about 2-3 assignments where thank you, Jason, we asked you all to decode something. So if you see something in the riddle that it looks like this is something I could need, but then it doesn't look like regular English, that means it might be encoded. So then what you need to do is 4A is check for shouting. I'm going to say that because I'm not going to be specific. 4B is to probably check for encoded or encrypted info and decode using, that CyberChef. CY ... Now, so this is where it keeps. So then this is like, I've given some major hints today, and I'm in no way going to explain how any of the tools work, because that is beyond me. If you send me a message asking me how this tool work and how this tool is not working, I can't help with that, because there are so many things I've explained in class that are supposed to go over this. But at the same time, if it's a major thing, maybe if your machine is like really messing up and one particular tool that works for everyone doesn't work for you, or that you can reach out to me. But if you reach out to me asking me how do we use something like Star-Cracker, or maybe how do we use mmap to scan a port, that is a bit of a thing, because I've had videos explaining all of them. So all I could do, the best I could do, is to direct you to the video where I explained these concepts. Now, whilst you found this riddle file, you are finding all of this information, you might be told where to use this information on. And all of that might be in the file. So you don't just go and just be spraying your information or do password spraying somewhere. No, be more specific. I told you may only need 4 or something ports that are very important in this belt, is a 4 or 5, one of them. So then if you found information like that, why don't you just go onto these ports that are available and try these credentials on them? Maybe one of them would work. And whenever you get on any, maybe you found credentials, you try to log in and it worked. Now let me give step 5. So step 5, in case you find important info, if I find important info, next thing I'll do is I'll try them against the ports I found. But most of the time, we might tell you specifically that, why don't you try this on this area? Or if you found something here, try it here, and it will be stated categorically. Now, in case you log in into any of the services, right? Remember, if you log in into any of the services, remember to always list out the files. It's very important. into any open ports. List out the files first because it's very important, very, very important. Good. So if any of them works, you list out the files and look through the files, look at the names, see which of them might be of interest to you. Don't just log into anything and then you are like, I need to go into the administrator folder. I need to go into here. No, list out the files. Maybe we might have put some information on there for you to find. It's very possible. There might be some, we will just put a file in there and you might have to maybe open that file to see. And I've mentioned that on Windows, in order to view a file, you may need, on Kali, you may need, cat, but on Windows, you may need, just like Erica said, type. So to view content of files, you may need type. So type, thank you, Erica. And then the name, and then probably the name of the file. So if there's a file named Derek, and it's probably a text file or something, you may have to do derek.txt, and then you'll be able to view the content. So if you list out the files, read through them. I saw people over the weekend, I've seen certain reports where people they got into the services, and then they just started going through other directories. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, why didn't you just list out the files? You would have seen some important information that could help. Now, back to our thing. Now, maybe after getting in there, maybe you might get the chance to download a few things. And I'm going to say this, there is a pcap file somewhere on this server. If you've gone through this belt exam and you've not seen the pcap file, which is the packet capture file, which I think I explained, which is for Wireshark, pcap file, that means that you are not wrong, but that means you may be missing something vital in this belt exam. So it might be good to try and see if you could, maybe if you use other processes besides what I'm doing, maybe you could also try these, use this as sort of like a guide. It's not a detailed guide, but it could help you probably find these files. Now, this pcap file is very important. And on Thursday, I explained how to investigate this. It will not take you more than, I know you've done assignments where it could take you about an hour to investigate a pcap file and do your Wireshark assignments. But in this belt exam, I explained on Thursday how you could do it. And you wouldn't need more than 5 minutes in investigating a pcap file. In case you find it on the server, it's going to take you less than 5 minutes. You watch my video on Thursday, it's going to be very straightforward. So now, if you found this file, now that pcap file I mentioned is very vital. So wherever you find a pcap file, we investigate pcap files with Wireshark. So make sure you investigate with Wireshark. Then after that, it's going to be straightforward from there. Once you're investigating, you are going to be finding specific information, telling you what you need to do, Maybe you may need to crack something, you may need to do that. And there might be a hint. I mentioned a three-headed beast last week. That is a tool that is also, the alternative name is a three-headed beast. It's very important. Now, after there, I'm not going to go into what you find from the Wireshark file. But then besides that, you may even be given some credentials to get into certain ports if you are lucky. And you may also need to crack certain ports. Now, besides that, you may get, if you're lucky and you get the credentials, as I've said, you don't need to do any cracking or password cracking, whatever, that should exceed 3 minutes. Like none of the, I even said 5 minutes last time, I'm reducing it to even 3 minutes, even 2 minutes. There's no password cracking you will need to do in this belt exam. And if you need to do password cracking, we would tell you that at this point, you need to do this. But if you go ahead to start and do password cracking, maybe you might not find what you're looking for. Also, you don't need to use a username to crack password. You don't need to provide a username list and then a password list to crack any password in this belt exam. If you are going to crack a password, make sure you already have the username so that it would be easier to do. Now, After all of that, in case you get, once you do all these investigations, in case you have to do some cracking, you get some username and password, anytime you get into the remember step number 6, because in case you log in again into any of the ports, remember step number 6. You may have logged in into maybe a port named AAA at some point. This is hypothetical. You log into a port named AAA at some point. If you get another credentials for AAA, it doesn't mean once you log into AAA with different credentials 2 days ago, you don't need to go there again. No, you might have to, because maybe different users have different files of interest to you. So make sure you always go back in there, check what you could find. And if you try some username and password on a port and it doesn't work, don't stress. Just do the thank you next. Thank you, move on to the next. Very, very important. Then finally, as I said, in case you find login credentials again, make sure you list out the files. You may find a text file again, you know what to do, type direct.txt. And then at that point, you find that, oh, wow, look at what I'm seeing. There's a file that's supposed to tell you what you should do for a red belt and what you should do for a black belt and what you should do for an optional black belt. And I'm going to say that again, that what you should do for each belt will be stated. So if you've done this all this while you are not finding that file, that means you are using your own approach, as I said earlier. And I'm not faulting you for that, but if you want to, this is like a guide that could sort of, it's not detailed for us again, but it could help. So that file is very vital to you getting your belt because it tells you specifically what is needed. So after this step, you may be finding these files, going in there, and some of you found the black belts in different ways and it's acceptable. That file could also tell you how to find it. And I explained a file, a file that contains some credentials from on Windows, all of that. So all that is very vital. So bringing this to an end, I think the next few steps you'll be guided because it's very specific. So all previous steps apply to the next few steps, and that could be very helpful. Now, this is how I will get onto a machine, or if I have to do this, this is how I would have done it. And I've even specifically given out a lot of hints on what you might be finding and how you might be decoding. Remember this 4B, this 4 is where most of you get stuck. Now, besides that, make sure once you figure this out, everything is just smooth sailing from there. If you perform an attack on a port, especially if you're using the 3-headed beast tool I mentioned, during class, I specifically stated that if you are doing any password cracking attack, make sure you set T to 4, especially if you are trying to attack maybe a port like SSH. Because if you don't set T to 4, T means threads, right? How many attacks per second? So 4 passwords will be supplied per second. By default, these tools use 16 per second. And SSH is not equipped to handle about 16 attacks per second. It's actually going to reset itself, and it could take you an hour or more for SSH to get back into consciousness. So you need to be very careful. If you are doing this, make sure you don't do that. Make sure you always put this into 4. If you've forgotten how to do all of that, just go back to my video on Thursday and it would be explained that this is what you should do and it would really help. Now, these are my steps. If you're going to take a screenshot, take it because it may not be like this forever. But besides that, we are going to do a few Q&As if you have any questions regarding what we've done so far. And I might need to also sort of show, I think I had plans to show something on the channel, especially showing you the video and how you could find what you need to find easily. Getting that. All right. ask me like specific questions. Like, Derek, I saw this thing. Is that how I sound? Oh my God. All right. Yeah, that was not fun. All right. Can you see my screen? Was it no? So if you can see this is one thing I kept saying for those of you that have not figured it out. I have sort of added chapters to this video because I know most of you may be looking for specifics on what to do. So if you are looking for a Hydra demo, if you click on this, it will take you there. At the same time, it's also at the bottom and it's listed Telnet demo FTP, Panther unattended, Wireshark demo, how I would approach a pen test. This will basically go through whatever I explained today, probably in specific, like in action. So if you think you're stuck or whatever I said, you couldn't visualize it, do that. Now, if you meet anything that you don't understand, remember that not everything here, I think, let me see if there's anything that will not, everything here might be needed on the belt exam. There's nothing I talked about that might not be needed. Maybe one or two, I think, yeah, maybe one of them. There's a route you could use, maybe you may not need secure copy, but you might. So everything here is needed. So you may go through the whole thing without needing them to, that's also fine. But all these sections are listed out with titles so that if you need to find it, it's easy to find it, right? So make sure to do that, and that would be very helpful. All right, so for Nadia's question, image step 1 mentioned we can use the 3 tools. Yeah, so yeah, that's perfect. And yeah, thank you, David, for answering that. But to actually save you time, I think just using Stack Cracker could actually help. Just that one could do the job. If you want to investigate if there are files in there, you could use Stack Hide as well. But to make it easy, any of them could do the job. So once you do that, it will still send, yeah, they would all get you to the same solution. Yeah, okay. If you use Stack Hide and it worked, it would all get you to the same solution. So you don't, it's fine. All right, now I think I'm done explaining what I had to explain today. And let's see. Stop sharing. All right. So do you guys have like any questions? Because if you have questions, or even if you are stuck with something and you feel like you want to ask, if you don't want to ask in front of everyone, you could send me a private message in the chat and I would see if I could answer that without being too specific or ruining my non-disclosure agreement for the belt exam. So that's also fine. If there's a specific part that you've been stuck on, or you have specific questions regarding what you're seeing, don't be shy, just ask. We are here to help. And wait, where is Jasmine? Jasmine, are you here?
I am.
Samuel, are you here too? So I have to use, okay.
He's here.
Yeah, I was just looking for the guy in space and yeah, found him. But all right, so I have a question, and the person is saying after they used the Steg brothers and sisters, the Steg family, they found some stuff like usernames and all of that. Now, there's one thing I forgot to say, and that is maybe you may find something that was shouting, but however, whilst you are using that in action or using that on the server, you may not need to put it in that same style, right? If the thing is shouting and you want to use it as credentials, just change it. If it's not working whilst it was shouting, change it to a form where it's not, it doesn't sound like it's shouting, and it might also work. So try that as well, and that could actually help. I hope that was not too much encryption, hopefully. And then yeah. So someone also tried running Hydra, and they keep getting socket error, connection reset by peer. So if you are getting connection reset, that means that the port is not really responding to what you're doing. So, oh, okay, welcome, Samuel. I was just going to ask if you and Jasmine, like, any word of advice for the students. So I'll just bring you in once I'm on a little break, if that's okay. All right, thank you. So if you do Hydra and then you keep getting socket error, connection reset by peer or whatever it is, there's a high possibility whatever you are trying to attack is either the machine is turned off, or there are two. Either the machine is turned off, or there is maybe you did an attack initially that has messed it up. So you might need to probably restart it to see if you could try again, or even try to, let's say, do an nmap scan to see if that port is even open. It could be that after that, the port has closed itself. So if you've done all of that and it's still working and it's not responding, one advice I could give is you could just import the belt exam machine again. Don't delete the run you have, just import it again and then try whatever. Just carry on from where you are and then try what you were doing and see if it's going to work. That's one thing I would have done, because I've done an exam where I think I messed up the machine and everything I did was not working. So I reset the machine, imported another one, and then the new one was also not working. So it took me 3 machines before it started responding. So if that happens to you and you keep getting stuck, just try that and that could actually work. All right. Any other question? I hope that answered your question as well. Oh, so when I say re-import, no, you don't need to type in the code. What I mean is just import into VirtualBox again, because right now you've already downloaded the machine on your system. So all you are doing, you remember when maybe if you download the machine, you have to double click on it and then it appears in your VirtualBox. So that's what I want you to do. You just need to do that. You might need to rename it, and then you have another Coding Dojo Belt exam in your virtual machine. Maybe it will be named as Coding Dojo Belt 2, and then you are good to go. You don't need to type in the code on the platform, nothing. It's just like setting up a clone of whatever you have, but just run the file you downloaded it again, and then it's going to work. If you need assistance with that, just reach out to me on how to do that, and I would actually help. Would you post the file you were showing at the beginning of the class? The rubric, yes, the belt exam rubric. I think it's on, yeah, I'm going to pick that up and share right now. Okay, I'm putting that on Discord. Done. Okay. Any other questions? So can I see the note screen one more time? The note with the steps. I think I could also put that on Discord. I think I might have it at this point. Let's see, just a sec.
I just put it on there, Derek.
You saved me, because I'm not trying to figure out where my laptop keeps the Zoom files, and I have no idea where it is. Thank you very much, Jasmine.
No problem. Just double check if it's the right one they're referring to.
I think Erica has to confirm. Can you clarify the grading that was on the rubric? I believe we get credit for capturing 1 flag, 9/10. Zoom, where are you? Right. The 9/10, you could ignore that. The whole thing is on the platform. On the platform, in order for you to see that you have a red belt, I may need to put a particular number, and in this case, that number is 9. And if I need to put in information to prove that a student had a black belt, I might need to put in the number 10. So that is where the 9 or the 10 comes in. So the number does not really matter. That's our own, you might even, maybe there's a possibility you might even see it on the, in your, on the platform when you log in. But then, so if you capture one flag, and in as much as it says one flag, I had to specify that the flag should be the red belt task. So this should be probably changed, because the red belt task is not a flag put in, it's not like a clear flag, but then the black belt one is actually a flag where you are supposed to find it on the system. So I used flag to sort of qualify it, but if you find the bonus flags, it doesn't count. If you find all the bonus flags, it doesn't count. But if you find the red belt task and you are done, I think I'm actually going in circles, but Nadia, I hope I'm making sense to you. Like, if you could do any of them, you qualify for a red belt. That's the thing. All right, you're welcome. And there's a question if you could use cut or type in telnet or only in Linux terminal mode. So cut or telnet, I mean, I think I'm giving off information right now. I wasn't even supposed to mention that. But anyway, the idea is there are two, right? Cut or type. One of them views the files. So if you try cut and it doesn't work, cut is mostly for Linux. So even though you are on a Linux terminal, right? If you've been able to get into the Windows system, or if you've been able to get into the Windows port, and now you sort of have a shell or a command line from the Windows port, you could now type in Windows commands. So if you do cut and it doesn't work, you just change it to type and one of them would work. I hope that was helpful. And then, oh, you're concerned with turning in assignments after finishing the exam. I think for today, I would actually prefer that most of you would sort of focus on the assignments, unless you know you are so close to finishing the belt, based on what I listed, unless you know you are so close. And I'm saying the belt could actually take you, it's like once you have the perspective down, the belt would not take you more than an hour. If you have the whole perspective down, you know that, okay, this is what I should have been doing, this is what I might be doing. You could do it in, like, let's say some few hours. So for that, I feel like assignments could sort of take a lot of time because you may need to do everything, create screenshots and everything. So if you could dedicate today to assignments and complete that, so that tomorrow you could carry on with the belt, that would be helpful. But if at this point you've not done anything with the belt exam, it's all up to you regardless. But I'm still here to help to make sure that you guys meet the deadlines, but maximum today, tomorrow. But in worst case scenario, for few people who have reasonable cause, for that we may have to reconsider and then see how we could help. All right. And this bonus flags don't count. That sounds harsh, but so is there any other question? If you are stuck in any point of the belt exam, you could actually ask your questions. And if I can, I would actually sort of provide some perspective on where you are. That's why today's class has been set up, so that we could have that communication and help. You could also send them privately as well. Then